All right, welcome to our playoff special round two show, which is sponsored by Victory Chevrolet. With just $19 down, we'll deliver any new or pre-owned vehicle. Make sure you visit victorychevycharlotte.com today and check out their inventory. All right, round two. I am the pet man, Matt Morrow, and I have elected to go solo again this week because all of our coaches on the show, they won. and I don't want to mess with the mojo. We're talking about Coach Dub, Robert Washington, Mountain Island won 36-27 last week in their first round game against Bishop McGuinness. Coach I can't even talk. Coach Ian Tatum, the OC at Walkertown High School, they won in the first round. They're going to be facing a good Salisbury program for the second time coming up this week. Adam Big Eye Shelby Weber, linebacker coach at Independence, they won big over Mount Tabor. They're going to be playing Huff, a game we might talk about here tonight. So I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to let those guys zoom in, lock in, and stay laser focused and see if they can keep on moving on in the state playoffs. All right, we got some comments coming in. I didn't even tell y'all to start commenting. Y'all ready to go. I hear you. Let's see what we got. What's up, Shannon? How you doing, man? Good to see you. J-Man, he's back. Mooresville star running back in round two. We'll talk about them in a little bit. Jonathan Mitchell is here. Yeah, we're just talking about Huff and Independence. Stay patient. We'll get to it here in a few minutes. Dakota McCann, good to see you. Appreciate it. And the Dudley boys, they are here. And they got AC Realms. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that too. Mr. Fields is here. What's up, man? Good to see you. Dalen Fuller, star running back at West Cabarrus. Yeah, man. Y'all had it right there. Y'all had it right there, man. That's a heck of an effort, man. Heck of an effort. Really great job to you guys. And I'm going up there and competing hard in that first round playoff game. Very impressive. All right, I'm glad we got a lot of people on Monday night. We don't usually do Monday nights. We might have to switch that up in the future. Y'all keep the comments going. All right, we're gonna get it going here. I'll talk about. So if you guys didn't know, Biff Poggi, head coach for the Charlotte 49ers, was fired today, and that came out about an hour before the show. And just to say, I don't know, man. I went to Charlotte for college, and I don't know what they should do. What do y'all think? Who should be the next head coach for the Charlotte 49ers? Leave it in the comments. We'll talk about that as we go along here. All right, but getting started. First matchups, we got Grimsley going to play Southeast Guilford this Friday night. Last Friday, Grimsley won their game 63-0. Not much to say about that. Southeast Guilford won a wild game over Reagan, 46-45 on the road. Wow, that's crazy. But a Grimsley Southeast Guilford matchup. Obviously, both of these two teams are Greensboro teams. I'm going to try and see. I'm pretty sure these guys might be in the same conference. But let me take a look at Grimsley's schedule to see what might have happened in a first matchup this season between both of these teams here. Let's see. Yep. They played on September 20th, and Grimsley won 49-7. So that's pretty convincing. So we got a rematch here in the second round. I think I'd like Grimsley to move on and win that matchup and move on to the third round. A couple comments right here. There's Big Eye. Good to see you, man. Stay locked in. Get off this show. Yeah, so Dalen Fuller sharing his stats. Oh, there we go. 1,200. Wow. Great stats, man. Excellent season. Good stuff, Dalen. Monday Night Raw. I don't know how Raw is going to get. I don't know. We'll see. Might get Raw on these predictions. I'll say that. Had a good week last week, though. All right. Next game we got Charlotte Catholic going. Well, actually, they're at home. They're hosting Palisades. Interesting thing about this game, even though these two teams are Charlotte teams, they have not played each other to my knowledge. I don't know if they might have scrimmaged in the past, but to my knowledge, well, I don't think they've played. Either way, my thought on this game is this is going to be another defensive, low scoring type of football game. Palisades got past Greensboro Page 14-3, picking up 14 points in the fourth quarter to win that game. They did an excellent job on defense, holding Page down, even though Page, led for the majority of the game there. And then Charlotte Catholic got past Porter Ridge 24-21. They led the game for the majority of the game there. Porter Ridge is like we said last week, they're a well-coached team. They're scrappy. They're not going to go, quietly. And, Charlotte Catholic hadn't played in a couple of weeks because of, the extended week and all that kind of stuff toward the end of the season. So maybe a little bit of rust in their game. But this is going to be an interesting game. I think, first of all, the key for Palisades is, how do they generate enough offense to win the game? Because their defense is really good. I don't know if they can hold Charlotte Catholic to 3 points, though. That's a tough ask for your defense to do that 2 weeks in a row. So they're going to have to generate some offensive firepower. And sometimes, when you're trying to generate offense and you're, trying to put drives together, you got to find some big plays to make it a little easier on you. So there's some guys that have that ability for the Pumas. You're talking about Fadine Turner at running back. You talk about, I like Tristan Frazier as a receiver. I mentioned earlier this season, he's a big play threat on the outside. They find a way to, have him shake loose, once or twice. That could help jumpstart, some things offensively. Charlotte Catholic, we know what they're going to do. The big key for them is controlling the line of scrimmage up front. Palisades is good on defense. We've said that several times. If they can't get second level to cut off those linebackers in the run game, Catholic's going to have a tough time moving the football consistently because the Palisades linebackers are what makes that defense happen. And if they can run free and make tackles and make plays, then it's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long night. And, we always talk about what games to go to in person on Friday nights. And, a lot of people are going to go to Huff Independence, but I'm considering going to this game just because I think it's going to be a really, really good football game. And sometimes, when you get these situations where you have a big game in the city and then there's another game, sometimes the other game ends up being the best game. So I'm not alluding to anything. I'm just saying. LaRondé Moore is here. Good to see you, man. Appreciate it. We'll talk about those Ashbrook Green Wave here in a few minutes. We're in the 4A West right now. So Catholic Palisades, I don't know if I can predict that one. That one's too close. And I'm not copping out. I'm just saying, if it's too close to call for me, I think it's going to be a heck of a football game. And I think it's going to be a heck of a football game here. Now, if I can call it, I'm going to call it. But if I can't call it, then I'm not going to call it. Speaking of that, we are now at a game that I don't think I can call. This matchup, and we're talking about Huff Independence. Independence going on the road to take on Huff. Last week, Huff dominated South Iredale 59-0. Not a big surprise. A lot of people probably kind of expected that kind of margin. But Independence going up to Mount Tabor destroyed them 44-0. I think that game was 35-0 at halftime. And Zay Flicks was there. He put together some nice highlights. You can go on YouTube, just type in Zay Flicks in the search bar, and you can check those highlights out. But a lot of people thought that game would be, relatively close, and it wasn't. So that brings up the anticipation even more for two teams that are playing very well right now. The funny thing about this is kind of like with Catholic and Palisades, Huff and Independence really haven't played that much, throughout the years. And, you know, both of these teams have been high in my rankings this season, whether you're talking about the CMS Best of Last or the Dirty Dozen, the rankings we do on the show on Wednesday night. And you start looking at it, you're kind of thinking, okay, does Independence have enough on defense to slow Huff down? And do they have enough on offense to keep up with what they do typically? I mean, you start thinking about Huff this season, and I'm going to pull up their schedule just to reference, but I mean, even in the game they lost against Northwestern, they still put up a ton of points. That has been the theme. So can Independence slow down Huff enough to, win the football game is the big question for me. And I'm trying to get to Huff's page here on the fly so I can share the score that they've had all season long. So 10-1 on the season, if you didn't know, when their loss came in the first game of the season. So obviously they had 59 against South Iredell. In the game they lost, they scored 44. They lost 45-44. 52 against Myers Park, 41 against Carolina Forest, 56 against North Meck, 58 against Chambers, 44 against West Meck, 40 against West Charlotte, 33 against Mallard Creek, 55 against Harding, 51 against Hopewell, and 59 against South Iredell. So the big key here, Independence defensively, what can they do to slow down the Huskies' offensive attack? A lot of people say Huff in the playoffs, this is where they choke. This is where they find a way to lose, and they don't get to the elusive state championship game. This team is different. You think back to those other Huff teams, they weren't explosive on offense. This Huff team is explosive on offense. They have elements that some of those past Huff teams did not have. And I really think it starts with the receiving core and Tyron Evans, Sean Brady, Ashad Wynn, and even some other guys that can contribute. Their passing game, I think, is the big difference. Because thinking back to the big game against Mallard Creek earlier this season, big passing plays really broke that game open for the Huskies, along with the suffocating defense they play. But I think that's the biggest key. The Independence defense has to step up and play as well as they did against Tabor and find ways to slow down what Huff does offensively. Now, what they do on offense, they do a lot of good stuff. That's one of the good things about Coach Baker and his offensive scheme. They're very balanced. They can hurt you in a number of different ways. The explosive big passing plays over the top, steady run game, short timing passing game. Trey Blakeney at quarterback's very accurate, gets the football out on time. He's got a big offensive line in front of him that gives him the time to do so. Jason Enciso is a steady producer out of the backfield. They bring in Funda Burke as a change-up power back guy. They got a lot. They got a lot offensively. So if Independence can step up defensively, and they got some guys on defense too. You talk about their linebackers and Cam Martin, Dallas Brandon. Those two are going to have really big games. Really big games. For them to, slow this Husky offense down. Now you flip it over. One of the big things that Independence showed last week was, the passing game. They haven't had to use it a ton this year because Jaden Jones has just had an incredible season at running back, over 2,000 yards rushing. But Justin Little is a senior quarterback. They've been through the wars, and they got some good guys to throw the football to. One of the best things to watch in this game, the Huff secondary versus the Independence wide receivers. Huff is going to challenge those guys. They're going to play them one-on-one. They're going to play man. Now, they'll mix in some other stuff, but ultimately, man for man, that's going to be a hell of a battle on the outside. Can Brian Crowder, Sadat Grant, Reggie Hoax, and those guys win, consistently against, the Huff secondary when they got to throw the football down the field? Independence offensive line, they got to step up. They got to give, Justin Little some time when they're going to throw the football, running the football. This Huff defense, outside of that first game of the season, you look and see what they've done. They've given up 13 to Myers Park, 0 against Carolina Forest, 0 against North Meck, 3 to Chambers, 0 to West Meck, 14 against West Charlotte, 0 to Mallard Creek, 0 against Harding, 7 to Hopewell, and 0 against South Iredell. First game of the season, that was when they struggled. And Northwestern, they threw the ball very well against that Huff defense in week 1. But ever since then, they've been lights out. So the question is going to be, can Independence get Jaden Jones going in the running game? Can they win against, some tough man coverage against talented defensive backs in the Huff secondary? And can the offensive line hold up and give them enough time to do both of those things? That being said, Independence is playing very well right now. They're going to be very motivated coming to this game. They're going to have a huge chip on their shoulder. Huff, I think they've been playing pissed off all season. They're hearing the same thing that they always hear at this point, that, they can't get it done in the playoffs. So you're going to have two very motivated football teams, two well-coached football teams. Everybody in Charlotte's going to be there. I know all the media guys are probably going to be there. I can tell you, I didn't even talk to Shaquan, but I already know he'll probably be there. Get there early. Get there early. These are the kind of games in the playoffs in Charlotte that, we love to see. And this is going to be another one of those classics, I feel like. I can't call it. I mean, if I felt strongly one way or another, I would tell you, but I just think it's going to be a hell of a football game. And get you, whenever those tickets go out online, get your tickets early. Because I think, with not as many games in the area with the playoffs, this could sell out. So that being said, y'all go out there, be safe, and keep us updated if we're not there. I don't know where we're going yet. All right, in the comments, I'm glad you're watching, Big Eye. You know what you got to do. Marcus Hunter says go to 3A West. We're getting there. We're getting there. I started with 3A last week, all right? I started with 4A this week. Won't be fair. Ronnie Price says go Big Eye. All right. I know the fans are ready for that one. I know they're ready. All right. Next matchup, we got, get back to the bracket. All right, we got rematch. All right, we got Mallard Creek going up to Watauga once again. Okay. All right, Mallard Creek last week defeated Lake Norman 34-9. The producer was there, kept us updated. From what producer was sharing on Twitter, the biggest turning point in that game was when Lake Norman decided to go for a fake punt deep in their own territory. It didn't work. Mallard Creek got the ball through a 25-yard touchdown pass, opened it up to a 2-touchdown lead in the third quarter. And then after that, Mallard Creek dominated the football game. So Mallard Creek playing well. They doing what they do on offense, running the football. I guess they've just said we're not going to throw the football anymore. Well, thank you, Trayvon. I appreciate that. I ain't gonna say what you were wrong about, though. See, I'm a nice guy. I'm not gonna call you out. And then Watauga defeated, I believe that is Ragsdale they played. They defeated Ragsdale 43-19 last week. Last year, this game, Watauga was able to keep Mallard Creek in check offensively. And the biggest thing from last year's playoff game was the fact that Ben Black, who was Mallard Creek's star receiver last season, only got the ball twice. But he scored, I believe, one of the times he got the ball, and the other time was another big play. Obviously, Mallard Creek has made some changes offensively. The interesting thing here, Watauga defensively, can they hold up against the Mallard Creek running game? Mallard Creek is, dedicated to the run game. They ran for, I think, over 400 yards last week against Lake Norman. The thing about Watauga, obviously, from where they are in the mountains, they see heavy run teams a lot. But Mallard Creek runs it very well, and they've got a bevy of backs to run it with, and they got quarterbacks that can run. With Knight, Caleb Knight, and Perry Justice can run it too. If Evan gets in at quarterback, Evan Rambert, he's more the passing quarterback. But the interesting thing here, on the flip side, anytime I talk about Watauga, they are very disciplined and they're very multiple formation wise on offense. They're going to give you shifts, they're going to give you motions, they're going to line up in unbalanced. The good thing, though, is Mallard Creek saw all this last year. Now Watauga will probably have a couple of wrinkles because Havich, the head coach up there, is very smart. But it all comes down to containing their quarterback, Maddox Green. He is a dynamic dual threat player who can make magic happen. The good thing is Mallard Creek, has the guys defensively that can contain him. And you start talking about their defense. Zion Burden off the edge had a monster game last week with 4 sacks. Nick Griffith on the other side, athletic and fast, good size. He had a sack. In the interior, you got Chaz Knox. Then you got the linebackers in Mustafa and Majet, those guys. And they got good guys on the outside. Now, defensive backs can't go to sleep because Watauga will kind of play it like Charlotte Catholic will. They'll run, and then they'll throw some play action at you, try to hit you over the top real fast. So it's going to be real cold. They said it might snow. But with what Mallard Creek does offensively, I don't think the weather's going to matter too much. I know they'll pack up their heaters and have them ready on the sideline. I'll be honest with you. I'll call for Mallard Creek. This week. I think there's a measure of revenge factor, obviously, coming in from when Watauga knocked them out of the playoffs last year. Wasn't a good feeling. I think Mallard Creek felt like they, deserved to go further in the playoffs. You got 40 seniors on this team that all experienced that pain last year, and you going back and you getting the second shot. I just think they're not going to let that happen again. So I think Mallard Creek will take this one. In the comments right here, Jared Gatewood supporting the Richmond Raiders. I see Richmond playing Clayton. Real quick on that. Clayton is coached by former Myers Park head coach Scott Chadwick. Some of y'all watching this will remember when Coach Chadwick was at Myers Park because that's where Drake May was. So now Drake May's with the Patriots. So Chadwick a heck of a football coach, obviously. They have some really good guys on that Clayton team that can make some plays. I really like the receiver, Demarius McCoy. I saw him in 2 camps this spring. He can absolutely fly as a slot receiver. He can do some things on special teams as well. My prep red zone cohort, Will Helms, actually covered the Clayton game last week. He really shouted out this defensive lineman, Keyshawn Stansel. That'll be a guy to watch for them on that side of football. But Richmond, led by Coach Denson, is doing a great job in resurrecting that program. They obviously had a big win themselves over Topsail last week. Taronde Spencer is a linebacker for Richmond, doing some special things on that side of football. 6'3", 230 pounds. And they have a running back who's doing some really good things offensively. But Raider Magic, Scott Chadwick will know what he's getting into going down to Richmond. One of their best teams at Myers Park, their season ended at Richmond in a shootout game. And this has the potential of, being something similar. I know that's another one. I probably can't call it, but that's a little preview for Clayton Richmond. That's for you, Jared. That's for you. I know these everyone here wants to move on, so we'll move on. Jason Happ says, thanks for your views on. Yeah, absolutely. Your son will be a big part of that too. Special teams. Special teams, you get in these big games. And you're going to have two good kickers in that game. Lyric Capera for Independence and Candler Happ for Huff. So that's going to be good stuff right there. J-Man is saying that Creek struggled at first. Now that's true. It was a close game for 2.5 quarters. But then they turned it on. I'll get Trayvon. I won't put you other comment. I told you I wasn't gonna call you out. I'm gonna let that go. Jared also saying McCoy and the top Raider. Oh wow. Oh, that's cool. I had no idea. That's cool stuff right there. Thank you, Jared. I had to look those guys up too, because that's a talented family. William Wilson checking in says, go Watauga. Oh, we got some Watauga fans on here. All right. Yeah, share this out, William. Share it out, man. I know I picked against Watauga, but share it anyway. I'm a big fan of that program. I'm going up, we're getting some mountain love. I hear you. That's all right. It's all right. There's a fight in the Cowboys-Texans game? What? I usually have the TV on, but I stopped putting the TV on because my videos were getting flagged for what do you call it? Copyright. So I said, well, I can't do that anymore. Even though I like the effect of it. But yeah, man. Yeah, man, we're growing. We're definitely growing, at least in the viewership anyway. All right, anyway, y'all got me off topic. All right. Now we got the Battle of the Forsyths. East Forsyth, West Forsyth. East Forsyth got past Butler, barely. We said that game was going to be something. The 3:30 matchup, East Forsyth got past Butler 38-35. Just reading some stuff, about the game. Anytime there's a close game in the playoffs, you start getting some questionable calls and, going up East Forsyth, you're going to have to beat everybody. I'll leave it at that. But they found a way to win. And then West Forsyth, in a double overtime game, they got past Cuthbertson 10-3. Old school football game. Remember, I told you that game was going to be physical, strong defense on both sides of the ball. But West Forsyth found a way to win it in double overtime. So it set up the rematch we kind of alluded to last week with East Forsyth, West Forsyth. These two teams just played a couple weeks ago. East Forsyth won that game 49-42 in a shootout. This is a rival game, big-time rival game up in the Winston area. You can't call it. I can't call it. I know some people up there felt like East Forsyth was a title contender, but I don't know, man. I mean, they're very good offensively, but defensively, Butler had a lot of success, moving the football, both in the run and the pass. I saw the highlights, in that game, and Butler had a lot of success going up and down the field. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but that's going to be a heck of a game. There'll be a lot of people at that game. That's a big game up in the Winston-Salem area. All right, next game. We got Mooresville, the 6th seed, taking on, I believe that is Northwest Guilford, the 11th seed. Mooresville put an absolute thrashing on Alexander Central, 70-0. I mean, in the playoffs, you get, these kind of, big variance matchups in the first round, but 70 is rare in the playoffs. That is rare. Everyone played well, obviously for the Blue Devils in that one. And then Northwest Guilford got past Olympic 21-14. I felt that game was going to be real close. It was a pick 'em for me. Even though I picked Olympic, I thought it was going to be a really 50-50 kind of game. That's what it ended up being. Northwest Guilford got ahead 14-0. Olympic came back, tied it up at 14, fourth quarter, and then Northwest Guilford got a long touchdown run with about 8 minutes to go for the final margin. Olympic drove to about the 35-yard line, but they couldn't find a way to get any deeper in that fourth quarter drive to possibly tie the game. So in this matchup, like I said about Northwest Guilford, I think they're on about the same level as Olympic. We start looking at that again. For Mooresville, I like them to win the game. I don't think it'll be 70-0 this time, but I think a solid 2 to 3 touchdown margin is what I'm looking for here from the Blue Devils. I think Northwest Guilford's a well coached team. I think they, do some things that could give Mooresville a few problems. They're balanced offensively, and I think that's what you gotta be to give Mooresville some trouble. But I just think Mooresville's got too much right now. They're playing very well. I think Coach Mayo has those guys locked in, especially on defense. Because at all three levels they got guys that you got to account for. So I like them to move forward here. All right. In the comments, what do we got here? J-Man says 70-0 was just the first. Statements are still beat. Well, that's the right mindset to have. Let's see. Trayvon Gaither also says he likes the Mooresville side of the bracket. I think they get to the 4th round against Weddington. Okay. Trayvon, you're making a lot of strong statements. Next week, I'm gonna hold you to them. I give you a pass this week. I'm gonna hold you to them next week. All right. And the next matchup we got. Oh, this is gonna be a good one. All right. So I told you guys, Marvin Ridge against Asheville. I felt good about Marvin Ridge. Picked Marvin Ridge. Marvin Ridge came through. They got the seed upset. They're 26 seed. They knocked off the 7 seed Asheville 24-10. Zach Lee, their running back, had a school record 256 rushing yards on over 30 plus carries. Offensive line getting it done. Zach Lee found a way to get it done. Great job from Marvin Ridge. And they get Northern Guilford, who held on to beat West Cabarrus 21-20. And Dalen Fuller, the West Cabarrus running back, was on here earlier sharing his stats. And he was talking about how they, barely lost the game by 1. West Cabarrus had that lead in the fourth quarter, and Northern Guilford found a way to get down the field and win the game, late in the fourth quarter. The thing about Northern Guilford is their quarterback, Jackson Kemp, is hurt, and I believe he's out for the season. He's a big part of what they do. So can Marvin Ridge go on the road again and beat Northern Guilford? It's definitely possible. It's definitely possible. If that offensive line is blocking like that, West Cabarrus is able to, control the game and have a lead in the fourth quarter. And West Cabarrus, is a run-first team. So, it kind of matches up, with what Marvin Ridge, can do well. And then defensively, they've got, some skilled guys too that can get some things done. So, I think I like Marvin Ridge. I think Marvin Ridge is making one of those runs. Every year you get one low seed that kind of gets hot, gets the right matchups, and then they make a run. And it looks like the way it's lining up, Marvin Ridge, could be in the 3rd round. I'm going to pick him to go there. I like him again this week. Now, in the other half of the bracket, we got a conference rematch. Sun Valley is taking on Weddington. Sun Valley getting past TC Roberson last week, 29-14, and then Weddington knocking off A.L. Brown 54-7. Now, I'm going to go back to my schedules again because I want to pull up Weddington Sun Valley because they obviously played earlier this season. And we're going to talk about what happened in that first game. But I know for a fact that Sun Valley feels like they can play with Weddington. And Sun Valley is, and I said it last week, they're a team that, had a really good season, but nobody really talks about them because they're overshadowed by, and rightfully so, honestly, for what Weddington continues to do down in Union County. But you look at Weddington's season, they had a close game with Providence State to start it off, but then they kind of got going a little bit. The Sun Valley game was 49-14, but I do know that game was close for a half. But Weddington has this way of kind of adjusting. First half, they may struggle a little bit, but anytime they come out of the locker room, Coach Capone, makes the adjustments along with his other coaches, and they find a way to really get going in the second half of football games. Kind of happened again against Cuthbertson the same way. They kind of start slow and the game's close. But what dominates them is their defense. Somebody I respect said Weddington has the best front seven on the East Coast. I said, the East Coast? I said, good gracious. But running back Thomas Davis Jr. just committed to Notre Dame. If you're watching this show, you know about the Harris twins on the D-line. Braden Barger's a heck of a linebacker as well. My goodness, man. Sun Valley knows them, as well as anybody, which gives them a chance here. But I don't know what you do, to win in four quarters. The key is going to be Sun Valley defensively. They're going to have to find a way to keep Weddington boxed up. Don't give up big plays over the top and make them earn it. Keeping it low scoring is the best chance they have of pulling an upset here. And I'm sure they know that. William Wilson commenting says, do those schools recruit? I'm going to say this. When you win a state championship and when you're consistently successful, you don't have to recruit. Recruiting happens at those schools that want to be where the champions are, because that's what you want. You want to get to a point where you don't have to recruit. And that's where Weddington is now. I mean, there are schools, and I mean, there are plenty of good schools out here that parents will move into the district and give their kids the opportunity to play for those schools. Success recruits itself. That's the best way I can answer that question. They're successful. And then Joe Hughes. I'm gonna let that stand on its own. All right. But I do like Weddington to win the football game just because their defense is very strong. It's going to take somebody with a good offensive line that can counter what they bring defensively to, have a shot at attacking them, in my opinion. Okay. All right. That's it for 4A West. My 3A West guy, Jamarcus Hunter. I hope you're still watching because we're gonna go to 3A West now. And we gotta get to. No, I gotta go back to the. Y'all bear with me. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay, 3A West. First of all, start off. We got the number 1 seed Irwin, who got past Parkwood 56-25 last week. They are taking on Smoky Mountain. Won the mountain matchup against Pisgah, 27-14. I think Irwin and Smoky Mountain, that is a mountain matchup. Once again, Irwin is in Asheville. Smoky Mountain is in that general area. I think Irwin will win the game just based off of what they do offensively. I think they have an offensive attack that can hurt Smoky Mountain. They got a few athletes in the receiving and running back core. They get into space that can give Smoky Mountain some problems. If Smoky Mountain's able to run the football, slow the game down a little bit, and just get a couple stops against Irwin, that could give them a shot at upset. But I definitely think Irwin's the favorite. I think they're gonna pull that one out here. James Gilchrist, did you already do East versus West Forsyth? Yes, I did. On the playback, you'll be able to see it. So after this show, come back to wherever you're watching this and play it back, and you'll hear the East and West Forsyth breakdown. Thanks for watching, James. You're a heck of a player too. That's an East Forsyth receiver. He's a talented young man. All right. Y'all talking about Dallas and Houston over there. Joe Hughes, JT Postel, that is a Smoky Mountain coach. He's making the same magic he had at East Gaston. Yeah, yeah. He's a heck of a coach, man. He's a heck of a coach. You found a way to win at East Gaston in the past couple of years, then yeah, that's making magic. That's making magic. Kim is here. Good to see you. Good to see you. Kim, it's Monday. I wish it was Tuesday. We're on Monday night. But either way, it's good to see you. Good to see you. I know we're usually on Wednesday. I know it's a little different. It's a little different. All right. Anyway, it's all love, Kim. You know I love you. Okay. West Charlotte and West Rowan are going to play in the second round matchup. West Charlotte dominated Hunter Huss last week, where I was worried about that kind of matchup for Huss. Bore out. West Charlotte won that game 47-0. And West Rowan defeated Freedom 35-21. It's a good win for the Falcons right there. This game right here, I like West Charlotte to win. It's kind of another situation as far as, I don't know if West Rowan has enough people to match up with what West Charlotte can throw at you offensively. The young sophomore quarterback, Jamori Nichols, is playing very well. They got the running game going with Aiden Turner and Emery McLean having some big games running the football last week. Receiving wise, I think Dante Nicholson had a good game. Ken Finch had a good game. Overall, the Lions are clicking on all cylinders right now. West Rowan has a couple guys that can cause some problems, but I just think the volume of what West Charlotte throws at you talent-wise is the difference here. But West Rowan, a really good coach team. I like their coach. He's a good guy and promotes his kids well. Joe Hughes weighing in says West Rowan upsets someone seemingly every year. Well, Joe, they used to be the talk of the town, man. Rest in peace to Scott Young. When he had those guys, man, they were rolling. I remember KP Parks, man. When I was at Harding in 2010, we had to play them in the first round of playoffs. And, our head coach was Mark Sanders. And we were watching him on film. And he said, guys, and we were just talking as coaches. We said, this running back, it's like tackling a boulder running downhill. That's how hard that kid ran the football, man. We went up there and they had a streak going of like 45 consecutive quarters with no points scored on them at home. And we scored in the first half. And we ended up throwing for over 300 yards against them, but we could not stop their running game. And they just chewed up the clock and they kept us off the field. And they won the game. I was like 34-8 or something like that. But that's what I think about West Rowan. Well, that's one of my memories. But I won't get into all my memories because I played against them too. And good gracious, man. Anyway, next game we got Dudley. The Dudley boys, a 5 seed hosting number 12 AC Reynolds. Dudley getting past that's Asheboro 55-0 in a easy victory. AC Reynolds getting past Central Davidson 37-7. That AC Reynolds Central Davidson game was close for a little bit before they were able to take control in the second half and win the game. AC Reynolds has been battling some injuries. I say this all the time. We don't get injury reports in high school. But if they are still banged up and some of their key guys are hurt, I like Dudley to win the game pretty handily, probably by 3 scores here. The best bet AC Reynolds has is if Max Guest is back and they can run the ball and try to keep the Dudley offense off the field. Joe's saying, I guess he ain't back. So, Yeah, I like Dudley to win. Darrell Chapman thinks Greensboro's gonna run things with Dudley being the 3A champs and Grimsley the 4A champs. That's interesting. Long way to go. Long way to go. All right. y'all fight that out in the comments there. All right. Anyway, next game. Oh, this is another good game. I'm considering going to this one too, man. This is a tough week to decide where to go. Well, for me anyway. I know Charlotte, everyone's going to Huff Independence, but I'm really kind of conflicted here. Kings Mountain going on the road to take on J.M. Robinson. Heck of a second round football game here. Last week, Kings Mountain got past East Lincoln 38-28. And then J.M. Robinson got past Northeast Guilford 28-0. Now, some people were saying, why didn't Robinson, beat Northeast Guilford by a bigger margin? And the playoffs, man, it's win in advance. You take it 1-0, you take it 1 week at a time. Kings Mountain had that East Lincoln Kings Mountain game was a really good football game, hands down. When you start looking at this one, man, but so J.M. Robinson is a spread football team. Kings Mountain can rush the passer. J.M. Robinson has a good offensive line. But I think the key here is Kings Mountain finding a way to disrupt the quarterback. If John Bissonette has had a really good season, but if you find a way to get pressure on the quarterback, it disrupts any offensive attack. Now, Robinson has some guys. They're mainly the receivers in Brian Rowe, Dominic Testa, Xavier Burnett. If they get the ball in those guys' hands quickly, that can eliminate some of what Kings Mountain, can do from a pass rush standpoint. And then it comes down to the fact that can Kings Mountain tackle those guys well in space? The other part of that is J.M. Robinson does a really good job of spreading you out with formation, and then they can run the ball. They have two good running backs, and Laramie Watson Jr. and Ennis Styles, a freshman. Now, it's going to be a good coaching matchup here. Coach Seidel going up against, oh my gosh, I'm drawing blank. Joe, give me the Kings Mountain head coach's name. I know him, but he won state championships at South Point. And here's my point. He's a defensive guy, and Seidel is an offensive guy. And I think that's where the key matchup's going to be. Defensively, can Kings Mountain make tackles in the running game against, a light box? Thank you, Miss Armstrong. Straight hair on. Heck of a football coach. Can they make tackles in the running game against the light box? Can they get pressure on the quarterback? Two big keys for Kings Mountain defensively here. Now you flip it around. J.M. Robinson on defense. Now they've had some struggles. You go back to when they played Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant led those guys in the fourth quarter. Now let me go to J.M. Robinson's schedule. But Mount Pleasant is a heavy run team, and they were able to find success against J.M. Robinson. Kings Mountain, they can run the football. Hill is a heck of a running back, with the football in his hands. And they're going to have to make a decision because now Kings Mountain has some guys on the outside that you have to account for, namely Mr. Vaughn, who is blowing up as a recruit at the wide receiver position. He is a 6'3" guy. He can high point the football, and he is a dominant player if he's getting the ball in his hands. And then you got to account for Jaden Gash, and they got some other guys as well that are making some plays on that Kings Mountain offense, which is getting better exponentially as the season has gone along. Now, I'm going to pull up J.M. Robinson's schedule, and one of the criticisms people have said about them is they haven't played a lot of people. Now, their toughest games have come late in the season. Northwest Cabarrus, they defeated 20-10. And then the next week, Mount Pleasant, they defeated 36-29. But as I told you, Mount Pleasant led that game in the fourth quarter. So are they playing their best football right now is the question. Did they peak too early? Because earlier in the season, they had some incredible victories, most namely the 83-0 victory over East Rowan back in October. That was an eye-opener to a lot of people. But, being challenged by Northwest Cabarrus, who made the playoffs, but, got knocked out by Ashbrook last week. We'll get to them in a minute. And then Mount Pleasant, who got pushed to the limit last week in the playoffs by West Lincoln in the 2A ranks. So you put all that stuff together, Kings Mountain might be playing their best football now. Is J.M. Robinson playing their best football right now? I'm leaning towards Kings Mountain here, going on the road and getting a win. One of the things I talk about when you talk about, and Joe, thank you for posting this right here. When you play teams that are not that strong, throughout the season, and then you run into somebody who has been playing really strong teams in the Big South, and we talked about that, earlier this season on the show. The Big South Conference is going to be a conference where they're battle tested, and you haven't been in those battles. It's a shock to the system. And what do you do when someone can hit you in the mouth like you've been hitting people in the mouth all season long? That's the thing here. And we've seen other teams lately kind of hit. Other teams have hit J.M. Robinson in the mouth. Now they bounced back and they found a way to win the game. But Kings Mountain is a kind of a bigger ask than some of the other teams we were talking about there. So I'm leaning Kings Mountain, but I might go to this game just because I really think it's a really, really interesting matchup here. And I've been one of the people that have stood behind J.M. Robinson because I think they're a really good football team. But this is a good test, and this is the playoffs. This is what's going to happen at some point. If you win a state championship, you got to play somebody, and somebody is here, in Kings Mountain. So that if you don't know where to go and you can't get into Independence Hub because it's sold out, go down to J.M. Robinson and watch this game against Kings Mountain. It's gonna be a heck of a football game. I'm excited for it. Let's see comments here. Joe's saying, I like what Kings Mountain did on offense last week. Ran well, but also content taking what defense gave them. I think Jaden Gashburn in the middle of the field can make an impact. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you something. You got him and you got Vaughn, and when I was offensive coordinator, if I had two guys, which I very rarely had, but if I had two guys that were that good, and you can put them on the same side, and you can run all kind of combo patterns and different things to open them up, and I'll shout out OC. Why is my brain? Oh my gosh, Jamie Bolton. Thank you. Own brains. Getting old, man. But OC Jamie Bolton for Kings Mountain, doing a great job. Man. And I might go out there just to catch up with him. I consider him a friend of mine. So, and thank you, Melissa. When I was talking about, I didn't want to throw his name out there, but I was talking about other guys on the Kings Mountain offense. He was the one I was thinking about. So there you go. Kevin Smith also adding in Kings Mountain offensive line is big and playing great also. Yeah. So, and I didn't talk about that. On the flip side, the defensive line for J.M. Robinson, Aiden Black is a really good player on the interior, but Kings Mountain neutralizing those guys and allowing them to attack offensively is obviously a big key as well. Okay, but Joe, are you going to that game? Let me know if you're going. Well, you're probably going to Ashbrook South Point, Joe. Anyway, let me know where you're going, Joe. Because if you don't, then I might go there and keep you updated. Okay, anyway, other half of the bracket, we got Hickory, the 3 seed, hosting Statesville, the 14 seed. This is a rematch. These two teams are in the same conference, and I'm going to pull up Hickory's schedule, and we'll talk about what that first game looked like when these two played. While I'm doing that, Statesville. Now, where's Trayvon at? Trayvon, you're a big Statesville guy, and you said Franklin was gonna, and I said I wasn't gonna call you out, but you said Statesville was gonna beat Franklin by 3 scores, and it ended up being a 15-13 win for Statesville, which at this point in the season, it's winning advance time. All right, that's all that matters. But I'm just saying. The first game, Hickory defeated Statesville 35-20. Now, in the first game, Statesville led Hickory in the third quarter. They were running the ball on them really well, and then Hickory found a way to get some stops, and then Statesville, couldn't hold them down. Hickory is one of the best offenses in the state. Coach Natoli, as the OC up there, does an amazing job calling plays and getting those guys open in space. And they've got some really good guys, obviously with Brady Stober at quarterback, Jamian Little at receiver. They also have another guy in Ellis Chappelle, who's a heck of a slot receiver. Isaiah Lackey, big time running back. He's a great contrast to their passing game because he can pound the football in the middle of the defense. But that game, the Hickory Statesville game, has been their closest game by score all season long. So the thing here is Statesville can make this a tough game. The question is going to be, what adjustments does Hickory make from the first game that caused them issues that they can attack and take advantage of? Now, Statesville has some really good athletes that can offset what Hickory can do in the passing game. And I'm sure that's why that game, the first game, was closer. Statesville offense, we're going to have to find a way to continue to run the football. Be patient, keep the Hickory offense off the field. I think that they had a good game plan the first time, and they're probably going to go back to it again. If there was rain involved in this game, I would, be worried more for Hickory, but I don't think we're going to have any rain. It's going to be really cold on Friday. So, I like Hickory to move on, especially they're getting a second shot at a Statesville team that's coming off a game where they maybe not are playing their best football. But, that being said, anytime it's a conference rematch, you have to have a little pause because the teams really know each other that well. Joe is saying Statesville has to produce more on offense to make this a game. The second round has been a beast for Statesville. I agree. And I remember, Statesville teams that could really throw the football. I remember they went down to Belmont South Point one year and really just threw it all over the yard, man. But yeah. Yeah, Joe, that's what I was saying. I don't think we're gonna get rain. I could be wrong. I don't think we're gonna get rain Friday. But yeah, so I like Hickory to move on here. And now on the other half of the bracket, Oak Grove defeated North Iredell 49-13 last week. And then Crest with a big win, 49-10 over Eastern Guilford. Crest going up to Oak Grove. I won't spend a lot of time on this because I kind of alluded to it last week. I do like Crest to move on here. I think Crest is, playing some really good football. They're a dangerous 11 seed. And we get a Hickory Crest matchup next week. That will be must-see TV. That's a big-time matchup right there. But yeah, I don't think Oak Grove has enough for Crest. I think Crest just has too many weapons on both sides of the football for them to hang in this one, to be honest with you. What we got in the comments here? Mizzle. All right. How's the basketball team started this season, Mizzle? Let us know, man. Let us know. He's supporting the Mooresville Blue Devils, as he should. Let's see. Joe's also saying Chris probably played his best game of the year. Yeah. That was impressive. I think Coach Lloyd's got him peaking at the right time, man. And they got the new quarterback from AC Reynolds, Eli Hamrick. Kind of getting used to the offense now, and that gives him a different element, man. Because that kid's a player. He's a Division I quarterback, so that's scary. Let's see. Trayvon is saying, I think Statesville matches up well with Hickory. They're big up front. Need to stay focused and not have mental errors. All right. There you go. Thank you, Trayvon. We'll see. Next matchup. West Henderson, 7 seed. They defeated South Rowan last week. Yep. 27-12. And then North Iredell defeated somebody. North Davidson, 43-13. The West Henderson South Rowan score was interesting. And hey, South Rowan is a great season. Great season for them to get to the playoffs, turning that program around. But that score was close. And you go back and look at the details of it, and you break. Why is my computer acting like this? You break down the details. That game, and I'm trying to keep it on the screen. You see that game was close. It's 13-6 at halftime, and West Henderson didn't take control to the fourth quarter. I like North Lincoln. North Lincoln and their offense and what they do. West Henderson's used to seeing run, but I don't think they've got enough. I know they lost their star running back, but I don't think they've got enough to keep up with what North Lincoln does offensively. They're an offensive machine. I like them to move on to the third round here. All right. Next, we got Ashbrook and South Point. This is a conference rematch once again. Last week, Ashbrook knocked off Northwest Cabarrus 24-7. And then South Point defeated Montgomery Central 42-7. Now, if you pull up Ashbrook's schedule, you will see that these two played in the same conference. Ashbrook knocked off South Point the first time around. South Point's only loss on the season. It's funny how the playoffs work. It is funny how the playoffs work, isn't it? Ashbrook 9-2 on the season. Ashbrook only lost to Crest, the game we were at, and they lost to Kings Mountain 27-19. They defeated South Point 17-14 in the first matchup at home. This time, they are on the road. Now, I know Joe's going to weigh in here. He is the Gaston County expert here, so he will share some facts and figures to help us break down this game. But here's the thing. Ashbrook defensively is built to slow down the running game. They've got all the elements. They got big defensive linemen led by Jeremiah Pagan. They've got a great linebacker in Caleb Gordon. They got athletes that can run down the pitch. They got the big guys that can help slow down the dive. They play their assignment football very well. Zeke Bigger is a very good defensive coordinator. He had him ready the first time. Now, here's the difference. What can South Point do differently this time around that they didn't do the first time? So, Joe is saying Ashbrook's offense will be the key. 2 South Point turnovers produce 10 Ashbrook points. So, obviously, South Point's got to protect the football. Anytime you get these low-scoring, defensive kind of football games, turnover margin, special teams, 2 big things that'll make a big difference here. Austin Robinson is also saying if South Point doesn't turn the ball over, they win. Okay. So we're saying Ashbrook can't move the ball on long fields against South Point's defense. Ashbrook is a heavy run football team. They can throw it if they get the matchups they like, on the outside. J.J. Gordon, playing receiver, has the ability to win on the outside. I think when you got two run teams like that, sometimes, those play action plays, DBs can't go to sleep. They get beat over the top. I think that's going to be something to watch for, on this one on both sides. I know South Point doesn't throw it much, but, they have the ability, to do that if it's there. Joe's also saying that South Point actually outgained Ashbrook in the first matchup. So that's going to be another thing. You get one of these tight games in the playoffs, and it's tough because sometimes you'll say, I like this matchup one-on-one on the outside, but I don't want to take it unless we're in plus territory because even if it's an interception, at least the other team's backed up. So I think you might see some more conservative play calling if a team's in their own side of the 50. But 50 plus might be when you see teams, take a little shot to try to get a big play. Especially to Joe's point with this, the turnovers that South Point had in the first one. So that's one thing to watch right there. It's when teams take shots versus when they're going to be conservative. And that plays into what a defense can call too. Because if I know a team is going to, be running the football on their side of 50 the vast majority of the time, I might blitz more to try to disrupt them and put them behind the chains. And for both of these teams, that's a big key. Run teams, defensive football teams, stay ahead of the chains so you can get first downs. That's one of the things that South Point has been really good at throughout the years. That dive may not get, 7 to 8 yards every time, but it's going to get 3 and 4. And it's going to set up, the pitch or the pull and the key that they run in that, triple option offense. Joe's also saying if the Ashbrook offense before the first South Point game shows up, they have a good shot. They've been up and down lately. Also, both teams are allowing around 11 points a game. Once again, another good game. If you don't know where to go and you can't get into Huff Independence or J.M. Robinson, Kings Mountain, you can go to Belmont and check this rematch out. All right. I stopped last week with 3A West, but I'll go 2A and we'll talk about quickly a couple of games of interest. And then, we'll glance through 1A as well. All right. 2A West, Reidsville, East Rutherford. I think we all agree on we like Reidsville there. Bunker Hill, Brevard. That's a pick'em game right there for me. Salisbury, Walkertown. We'll talk about this briefly. First matchup, Walkertown won this game 47-33. It was actually the first game of the season for both teams. Walkertown going back to Salisbury again. Walkertown has got a couple of guys that have done really special things for them this season. Salisbury, since that game, has not lost. So a lot of people were coming into the season were saying, oh, the Salisbury team's not the same. They're going to be down. Then they lose to Walkertown, and then they're hearing, oh, gosh, we're not the same anymore. But they are. They're still continuing to dominate throughout the season. So that's going to be another really good football game. Forest Hills and Randleman, even though the seeds are the way they are, I saw Randleman on film, and I've seen Forest Hills a couple times. I like Forest Hills to win the game over Randleman and move on to the third round. Quarterback Zach Dilworth playing really good football right now for Forest Hills. Monroe and Burns is an interesting second-round game. We were at the game a couple years ago between these two, in the fourth round of the playoffs, which was just an absolutely fun game to watch. Burns ended up winning that game like 56-42. It was a wild, fun game, man, up and down the field. I don't think it'll be that kind of game this time. Burns is a much more of a run team now. Um, Monroe destroying TW Andrews last week, and Burns getting by North Stanley. I like Monroe to move forward here, but you know, kind of like what we were saying with Jan Robinson, and it's not Monroe's fault. Monroe tried to play the West Charlotte game, and we had the crazy storms come through, and they couldn't get the game rescheduled. So that was going to be a big test for them. So they haven't had a big test. The Forest Hills, when Forest Hills played Monroe earlier this season, they were still kind of in flux. I think Forest Hills has figured some things out since then. But I still think Monroe has, too much offense for Burns here to keep up. That's why I like Monroe there. Joe's saying East Gaston lost to Randleman last week. Yeah, I saw. Yeah, that was one of the things I saw. And when I saw what I saw, I liked Forest Hills. I'll leave it at that. East Surrey, West Stokes. This is a cool matchup of oh my gosh, Coach Trent Lohman after he left East Surrey to go to West Stokes, playing his old team here in the second round. That's a cool thing to see. Trayvon, you are reading the bracket very well. We are now to Mount Pleasant and Community School Davidson. We'll talk a little bit about this game. Now, I talked about Mount Pleasant just a little bit ago when we were talking about Jan Robinson. And I felt like Mount Pleasant was going to win this game against West Lincoln and kind of not be so close. But they won the game against West Lincoln 36-35, and as you see the breakdown in the box score, it was a close game all the way through. And Mount Pleasant had to get those final 8 points to come back from being down in the fourth quarter to pull that one out. So I'm a little uneasy about Mount Pleasant right now. Community School Davidson probably played one of the best games of the season, defeating Bandy's 42-6 at home. Now, Community School Davidson is going on the road to Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant will have a ton of fans there. And it's a contrasting style matchup. Community School Davidson loves to throw it, but Brandon Albert last week had 4 touchdown runs. Mount Pleasant loves to run it, but they can get sneaky, and they have a couple of pass plays if you're biting too much on the run. Oh, man. Joe's saying he likes Mount Pleasant by a 45-41 score. It could be. It could be because Mount Pleasant has defensively, I think Community School Davidson can take advantage of things offensively. But then on the flip side of things, I think Mount Pleasant will be able to run the ball well. They've got a good offensive line. Now Community School Davidson has Jack Smith. He's a heck of a D lineman. But they'll probably double team him all night long. But I think they can run it. So it could be a high scoring game here. That's another fun matchup right there. And Joe's also saying issue for Mount Pleasant is the fact West Lincoln had trouble scoring all. Well, that went into my initial mindset. Karen Belk, yeah. I put it out late that I was going to come on tonight at 8. I was supposed to come on last night, but we were traveling and got back home late. So, yeah, 4A was earlier. You watch the playback. You'll hear a lot of stuff about Huff Independence, Karen. All right, so we got Maiden and Shelby. I'm not going to say much about this one because I think Shelby, is the favorite here in my opinion. But I did pick Maiden to defeat Lincoln. That was a conference rematch, and Lincoln won the first one. Maiden came back and won the second one, 28-23, and then Shelby defeated Moorhead 49-0 last week. Joe, if you want to comment on Shelby Maiden, that's more your wheelhouse there, but I like Shelby to move on. All right. We'll take a little look at 1A before we end the show here. Switch. Okay. Our buddy, Coach Dub Robert Washington, going up to Mount Airy. Mountain Island, as I said earlier just on the show, they defeated Bishop McGuinness 36-27. And then Mount Airy defeated, I believe it's Thomas Jefferson. Oh gosh, 68-0. Now, Mountain Island, they have history. They have gone up to Mount Airy and they've won before up there. But to do it this time, it's going to take a heck of an effort by their offense. Grayson Harvey's going to have a big game throwing the football. Now, the offensive line did a great job last week, and they ran the football well against Bishop McGuinness. But Mount Airy has some tough D linemen up there. I think the best way to move the football against them is going to be through the air in this one. So they're able to give Grayson Harvey some protection just if Washington can get free. Their star freshman 3K, Andre Ramsher, can have the ability to make some plays. And then Joe Hughes tells me they're on a 40-win game. I'm trying to devise a plan for Mountain Island to get a win here, but thanks, Joe. Appreciate that. All that being said, Mountain Island will have to find a way to slow down the Mount Airy rushing attack. Over 4 quarters, that's going to be a tough deal to get done. They have a really talented running back up there, which they seem to keep one all the time. Dakota McCann is saying the Mount Airy front 7 is tough for 1A. Yeah, that's why I was saying throwing the football is going to be the best recipe for Mountain Island to pull off I guess would be a really monumental upset here. But they've done it before. So we'll see if they can find a way to get it done again. Winner of that game will get South Stanley and Star Mount. South Stanley with a win over, is that Avery County? Yep, 34-7. And then Star Mount big over Andrews, 51-0. I like what South Stanley's done with that program. They've turned it around and they've become a really good team down in 1A. Well, nice to see you, Josiah. Tell me why you're the truth. I'm gonna give you 30 seconds here, because we don't talk about South Stanley a lot. So why is Josiah Holt the truth? Why are you typing up a response there? Joe Hughes says Mount Airy rushing for better than 300 yards per game. No, good gracious, that's a lot, man. That's a lot. My goodness. Okay, well, Josiah, you tell us why you the truth, man. But that's South Stanley. Okay, here we go. He says, I'm good on one-on-one coverage. Okay. And he says you got to double me. All right. Well, one of the things I like to do is I like to research players and write about them. So I'm going to look you up. And if you legit, I'll write about you. That's a bet, right, Josiah? All right, we'll see. Trayvon Gator says, I think Corvian can win the state championship in football and basketball this year. Okay. And then Joe says he thinks we're in line for another Star Mount Airy rematch. Yeah, that was a good game from earlier this season. We actually talked about it on the show. I think I was in a pick'em I was in, and I picked Mount Airy. Mount Airy won that game. I believe it was like 21-14 or something like that. So, all right, good stuff. So Corvian, the aforementioned, is taking on Mitchell. Corvian defeated Elkin 49-0 last week. And then Mitchell defeated Drawn 39-28. I like Corbian to move on there. That's a lot of points given up for a Drawn team that's not, as strong, because they lost some good seniors to graduation. I like Corbian to move on. And then we got Cherokee and Eastern Randolph. Cherokee defeated Carver 25-8. And Eastern Randolph defeated Swain County 49-0. Interesting matchup there. Probably Eastern Randolph is the way to go, though. All right, interesting game here. Murphy defeated, I believe that's Highland Tech 62-6, and then Christ the King with a seed matchup upset over Allegheny 31-28. Christ the King plays good football, man. They got a guy in Calvin Harris, who's a really good DB. He's got over 100 tackles on the season for those guys. Going up to Murphy. They played close games, man. I think they gave Corvian their best game this season, too, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a game to watch. That's a game to watch for sure. I know Murphy's tough up there, but don't sleep on Christ the King. They play really good defense. That's what keeps them in football games. All right, Bessemer City, 6th seed, defeated South Stokes at home 45-22. We got a box score. Let me see. We got a box score on that. That's it's interesting right there. Oh, no box score, but okay. And then we got Robbinsville, who defeated Thomasville 20-7. If Bessemer City is able to win, Joe, I don't know if you're still here, but when was the last time Bessemer City was in the third round of playoffs? That's a nice trivia question. Robbinsville's tough. We know we had our Robbinsville guy, Far West Sports, who always tells us about what they got down there. Being 11, maybe not as strong this season, but they have enough to get past Bessemer City. That's gonna be a key matchup there. In this bracket. Interesting. If Bessemer City's if Bessemer City makes the third round, I think that's a great deal, man. So Joe said Bessemer City, last time they were in the third round of playoffs was 1994. Man, I was in 8th grade. So needless to say, it's a big game. It's a big game for Bessemer City, man. A home game, second round, a chance to make it for the third round since 1994. Man, Bessemer City fans, get out there and support those guys, man. I hope they pack those stands, man. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Just to have the opportunity. That's what you want. That's what you want, man. All right, North Rowan and East Wilkes. North Rowan getting past Cherryville 41-34. Oh, Cherryville. Pushing North Rowan right there in the low seed. And then East Wilkes defeats Albemarle 49-28. That's an interesting 7-10 matchup. I don't know who I like. That's a pick 'em right there. And then Hayesville pulled the upset seed-wise over Union Academy 37-35. And they'll take on Mountain Heritage, who defeated North Stokes 57-7. I like Mountain Heritage to move on right there. All right. I did them all this week. I don't want to hear nothing. All the West anyway. Okay. So there will be no Wednesday show. This replaces the Wednesday show. But we will have Friday Night Live this Friday night at 11:45 p.m. On these same outlets. Make sure you come on and join us. Share your thoughts. Share, people that played well. Y'all know how Friday Night Live works if you're watching this. Joe's saying Norfolk. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to say that, but yeah. All right. Anyways, thanks for watching the playoff show. I'll probably go solo again next week. It's Thanksgiving week next week. I'll let the guys kind of take a break during Thanksgiving, so I'll be back solo is it Tuesday? I think it's Tuesday night next week. Check your local listings for all of the comings and goings of where the show is going to be at what day and what time. But no matter what, if you missed the show, you can always watch the playback after we end the live show on these same outlets. It'll be on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as always. If you don't know where we are, Twitter at Pepman704, PEPMAN 704. Please follow. If it's your first time watching, we had some new people on tonight, which is great. Facebook, we're at Charlotte Football Insiders. YouTube is at Matt Morrow, and we're also on Instagram at Charlotte Football Insiders. Quick announcement. Please, 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 players, parents, coaches, encourage your players to sign up for the Winter Showcase Saturday, December 7th at Rocky River High School. You can go to charlottefootballinsiders.com, sign up for the Winter Showcase. It's $125. There are other camps out here charging $235 and have 5 schools in attendance. and I'm being serious, man. We charge half of that, and we have double the schools right now. We've got 11 schools committed, and that's even before the college season has ended. We're still working on getting more schools. There are some schools that usually come. They're in the FCS playoffs, 1AA playoffs. So obviously they're locked in and focused on that right now. They ain't thinking about recruiting. But those guys, when they commit, we'll add them to the flyer. And if you have some players that you think deserve invites, we're inviting players. You can let me know. Shoot me a message on Twitter, Facebook, whatever you want to. But it's a great opportunity. The big thing about the showcase, and why you're going to see us stress it a lot here over the next couple of weeks, it's in the open recruiting period. If you don't know how recruiting works, there's an NCAA recruiting calendar where college coaches are permitted to go see players during certain time periods throughout the year. This showcase is scheduled before the transfer portal opens up. And that's very important because college teams now recruit more players out of the transfer portal than they do in high school. Think about that. Only a couple years ago, it wasn't like this. When we did our showcase a couple years ago at Mallard Creek and we had like 47 schools out there, the transfer portal wasn't a thing. But now it's a thing. It's a big thing. And that's why some schools don't recruit high school players anymore. They take maybe 35% of their recruiting base is high school. 65% is in the transfer portal. You'll hear more about this on the shows going forward, but I'm just stressing it to you. It is important to get in front of college coaches when you can. Those opportunities are going to be becoming, more few and far between quicker than you believe. So please encourage your players to sign up for the Winter Showcase. It's for juniors and seniors. They can legally recruit those guys. They can legally offer them on the spot. That's what the college coaches want from us. That's why we limited the juniors and seniors. But it's happened every year. People that attended, they get offered on the spot. And that's what we want. We want our players here in Charlotte to get the best recruiting opportunities they can at the best possible price. And that's what we offer. So please encourage players to sign up for the Winter Showcase. Once again, Saturday, December 7th at Rocky River High School. Friday night, be safe. Go out and support your schools. Come back, watch Friday Night Live at 11:45. If you see us at a game, say hello. I don't know where we're going yet, but let us know. All right. Good night, everybody. Everybody have a great week. Appreciate it.